Morning all, morning. Morning, Karen, Diane, morning, Claire Irish, Annette Baird, Ruth Fronten, morning guys, Marva James. Good morning to His Excellency Nigel O'Connor, President of Pleasantville, and First Lady Mauricia, good morning to you guys. Rude Trude, good morning, Deborah Duranty, Neil Francois, Niabo, morning. Put this on. Right, Point Commander Sharon, Gerald Pascal, morning all. Kathy Ann Best, good morning to you. Teresa Francis, Gaylan Jackson, Anthony Joseph, good morning, folks. Karen Fields Puna says she's at work with the airport. Oh, very good. Oh boy, morning. Let's see what's the time, 11:03. Let's see. Okay. That's what I'm looking for. Morning, Bernadette, Susan, Jackie, morning, Brian Debbing, morning, sir. Morning, Allison Boyce, Linda Supreme, good morning. Dexter Tweets, Sion Hepburn, good morning. Trevor Carter Nelson, Angela Carty, good morning. Fatih Kutu, Adaremi X, Althea Allen, morning to you guys. David Clark, morning. Morning, Maria Lyons. And this rainy Sunday morning on what is the 4th day of June. Yes, 4th day of the hurricane season. And we're almost halfway through 2023. You need to slow down a little bit at Russian. Ease us up now. Right. So, good morning, Ann Niles, the Patriot. Morning, Rena Jennings. Morning, Val. Keith Marshall, Carolyn, Passy, Christine Edwards Farrow, Malka Rock, good morning. Yes, folks. So, so many things to touch on today in the interest of time. But the first thing I want to touch on is I see we have more defections from the United National Congress or the United National Conmen, right? So, yeah, so on page 8 of today's Guardian, I'm seeing ex-UNC councillor files nomination for PNM. One of the UNC's 3 councillors in the Battleground San Fernando Corporation, Marcus Gedari, has resigned from the party and joined the PNM. Gedari also filed his nomination with the ruling party for the same seat. This was confirmed by PNM officials as party screening began for the East Trinidad electoral districts of Sangre Grande and Arima yesterday. Right, so local government election date is expected soon and must be held right. PNM spokesman confirmed that Gedari filed his nomination for Marabella South Vistabella, the seat he won for the UNC in the 2019 polls, and he had defeated PNM candidate Philip Montano with 777 votes. So it says how Gedari has now become the latest UNC member and councillor to resign from the opposition party and join the PNM. In May, former UNC Arima Central councillor Sheldon Fish Garcia resigned from the party, as did former UNC Warrenville Kelly Village councillor Samuel Sanka, and both have functioned as independent since. Garcia rejoined the PNM, with which he had been associated in 2005. Why he left to go to the UNC, I don't know, but anyway. Some people need to learn to learn. Both attended PNM's Malabar meeting and were hailed by platform speakers, including Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. Former UNC youth officer Kavish Sudal joined the PNM recently. Gedaria Vistabella joined the UNC in 2014, and this is his first term as a councillor. And the other 2 UNC councillors in the corporation are Rishi Balram Singh, Lizzie Fort, La Romaine, and Kern Ramben, Marabella East. The UNC has set its sights on unseating the PNM in the San Fernando Corporation. Gedari resigned from the UNC in May, and his nomination to contest the South Vistabella for the PNM was filed with the party before the close of nominations last Friday. He was unavailable for comment yesterday. Yeah, so Pamela is saying, why are they coming to my party? So many, the same UNC that keep complaining that Trinidad is that the PNM is the worst thing ever to hit this country. All kind of nastiness they're saying, as I will read just now for you all from that upstart gianty Lakshmiya, yeah, who don't know her place. But before we get to her, they had somebody the worst things to say about the PNM. In fact, Marcus Gedari was just 2 Mondays ago on the UNC's platform in San Fernando. When they had a meeting in San Fernando, he was there. Let me play it for you, right? In case you didn't hear. As I love to say that if you were in your fridge, getting a red shandy as Mr. Anyway, let me not even mention him here, lest I get cussed. So let me see here. Yes. Just 2 weeks ago, 2 Mondays ago, Marcus was on the UNC platform telling them to vote for the UNC, right? That the PNM is the problem and the UNC is the only solution. But 2 weeks later, here he is. What changed? A sudden change of heart in the space of 2 weeks. As Mr. Warner would say, yesterday was yesterday and today is today. So, anyway, listen to Marcus.
The sweet man is coming on, Marcus Gedari from Vistamella, South Maribel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening, brothers and sisters. I am the elected councillor for the Maribel South Vistamella District, Marcus Gedari. And all the speakers that spoke before, they would have had the same clarion call. It is important that we win all 9 districts of San Fernando. All 9. San Fernando doesn't have a vision. There is no vision for San Fernando. Look at the street dwellers. Look at businesses. Everything is being washed into the waterfront area. But tonight I am calling and giving a mandate to the residents of San Fernando to come out and vote. When that date is announced, come out and vote for every one of the representatives of the United National Congress. We understand that PNM is the problem, but UNC is the only solution. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
That was the 22nd of May. The 22nd of May, today is the 4th of June. So that was 13 days ago. 13 days. So he suddenly had an epiphany that the PNM is the best thing. He no longer thinks that PNM is the problem and the UNC is the only solution. I guess he probably decided to take his own advice and go and walk the streets of San Fernando and look at the street dwellers and look at the businesses and the waterfront, and it suddenly dawned on him, but wait, now you should do this all the time. You see in development, maybe I need to rethink my position on where it is that I need to go. So, yes, Carol, they said that's the sweet man, the sweet man Marcus. Yeah, so he's now submitted his nomination papers to be the PNM's candidate, the PNM standard bearer for that seat. So we will see what will happen when the screening committee rolls into San Fernando, whether or not he's going to get the nod. But anyway, it is what it is. Yes, Marlene says, imagine in less than 2 weeks, Dr. Rowley is not fooled. They are users and they use you to get what they want and then dump you. That's Sarah says that. Yes. So 4 of them so far. Let's see how many other defections we are likely to get before the local government election. But listen to the pathetic explanation of the UNC, right? Because just last week, a few days ago, in fact, Arnel Roberts did a live where he talking about the PNM imploding and the PNM falling apart, and is only factions in the PNM and the fighting for leadership and all this kind of thing, and the PNM falling apart at the seams. I ain't seen anybody from the PNM defecting and going to the UNC. There are so many other parties they could have gone to. Gary put out a poll last week that was conducted by a social media entity called MYOBTT. in which they asked the question, if it is you, the local election were to be called today, who would you vote for? And out of all the votes, his party got the most people said they would have voted for his party. 1,700 of the respondents said they'd vote for his party, so he thought in that. Yeah. So why these people not gravitating to Gary party? You have PDP, you have PEP, you have Hope. Well, no Hope in Hope, because why the people in Hope? It's Louis Leasing, Karen Nunes Teixeira, Fazal Karim, Steve Alvarez, who has his own political party, and this other guy, Hammersmith, who was the president of the Senate under the People's Partnership. All these other parties are could gravitate to. So what does everybody want to run to the PNM now? Okay, well, all right. We said all are welcome, you know. But they're going to make an issue, just as I'm about to read for you. So the UNC will say that you have so many PNM stalwarts, persons of long standing in the PNM, and you have that the PNM taking UNC people to put them up to 5 seats at the expense. That's what they will come and talk about, right? To try and drive a wedge. So the UNC's response to this latest defection, we told some they wouldn't be selected, opposition. For the past 3 months, the UNC has been confidentially communicating to some councillors and aldermen that they are not in a favorable position to be selected to return to their respective electoral seats because of various reasons. This as the local government landscape continues simmering ahead of the announcement of an election date. After the departures of some councillors from the UNC to the PNM, top UNC officials spoke on the matter, but they wouldn't say who they are. Call your name. Why everybody always like to speak under the condition of anonymity? State your name. You know, big thing in that. If you're telling the truth, well, then come out and say, so-and-so said this. But no, don't say I say, eh? Right. Okay. Some UNC members, including Councillor Sheldon Garcia and Samuel Sanka, resigned from the UNC in the last month and have gone to the PNM. Both received a warm welcome from the PNM at its recent Malabar meeting. But top executive UNC officials said yesterday, for the past 3 months, the UNC has been confidentially communicating to some councillors and aldermen that they were not in a favorable position to be selected to return to their respective electoral seats because of various reasons. Exactly what? They replied, this was done to avoid any public embarrassment or hurt being inflicted on persons who would not be reselected. And the UNC cannot help it if they, knowing of their future non-selection, chose to dupe Rowley and the PNM into giving them incentives to appear in the PNM. Really? Giving them incentives. Okay. If Rowley and the PNM choose to take baskets, so be it. They did it before with Colin Patab, Gypsy, and others and lost. The sad thing is that loyal, hardworking PNM people are shunted aside for people whom the UNC asks not to reapply. And this is why the UNC is promoting from within our ranks and not participating in poaching PNM or other parties. Nobody wants to come to our party? Really? Well, they can't poach from the PNM? If anybody leaves the PNM, they sure as hell ain't going to the UNC. I could tell you that. They might go to one of the other parties, but UNC definitely is not, they're not even a consideration. Not even on the list of options, right? It's like, nope. All right. So the list of absolutely not, hell no, UNC and UNC alone. And then you have the other parties under the column, maybe a consideration. But UNC, no. So Miss us with that BS, some please. That's the best all I could come with. According to party officials, we did enough of that when in government and it did not help us, but instead it hurt our loyal members. Okay. And if a person cannot be loyal to his or her own family or party, then he will not be loyal to a family or party that he or she was previously against. It is what it is, and life goes on, and we have the people's business to do, and that's our forward focus. Not who's leaving, we have plenty coming to us. Coming from where? From where? But yet still, Dave Tanku talking about, you know, for all those who leave in the UNC, that karma will come for them. I thought I don't mind, let them go. Really? Look, play jokey, yes? Miss us for that for me, please. But it's left to be seen, you know. All are welcome, but hey, it is what it is. So that's 4. We'll see how many more will defect within the coming days and the excuses that they give. But the party is so great and the UNC and proud. Proud of what? You're telling people, well, you know, you're not going to be selected because of certain things and we don't want to cause public embarrassment. But what public embarrassment? If you could select somebody like Arnold Ram, who mere weeks before he was selected as the candidate to represent the UNC in, I think, Caroni Central or wherever it is there. A newspaper article came out indicating that this man was fired from 2 public utility companies, Tiantec and TSTT, for gross misconduct, right? And the matter is now before the court, wherever it is, or whoever investigation is taking place. And you still selected this man. You want to talk about public embarrassment, and you call him counselors to tell them what? You hear news that they soliciting bribe? That is par for the course for UNC local government practitioners. That when you look at the criteria, right, to apply to become a counselor for the UNC, there are certain criteria you must be able to satisfy. 1, you must be corrupt to the hilt. 2, you must have the propensity to thief. 3, the propensity to lie with impunity. 4, you must be willing to solicit and take bribe. From the smallest amount, go up. Right? You must be able to do that. 5, you must be able to pay obeisance to the leader. Oh, great leader, Kamla. And if necessary, and she want to walk on your back, you must be willing to lie down and allow her to do that too. Yeah? 6, you must have an IQ of less than 10. You must have the predisposition of a 5-year-old. These are some of the criteria you need to satisfy to be a UNC counselor. Yeah? So all this thing about you want to avoid public embarrassment, that's part of the cause. You have Glenn Ram, who was the former chairman of the Mayaro Regional Corporation, is before the court, right, on charges of soliciting and taking bribe. Anil Maraj, who was the former chairman of the Finance Committee and a current sitting UNC councillor, but he's not a councillor anymore because of what happened with the Privy Council judgment. But he was the former chairman of the Finance Committee. He is now before the court as well for soliciting and taking bribe. So it's normal thing with them. When they in office, they had a thief. They outside the office, they still had a thief. It's in their DNA. They just can't help themselves. Corruption is in their DNA. As we see in the Express today, part 2 of the Piaco Airport Commission of Inquiry report. Now, they won't talk about that, eh? Nah, they won't touch on that. They're avoiding that. No matter how many times I copy that article and post it in the comments on that Doglaya Politics, on that Gianti's, in the comments in Gianti Lakshmiya's page, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, none of them want to touch that with a 100-foot pole. Why is that? Address it. Can't do that. But all they want to talk about P&M corruption and always had to go back 5 decades to talk about O'Halloran and Privat. We fed up here about, yes, O'Halloran was a damn thief. Yes, Privat do thing. We admit that. The people in the P&M have no problems with admitting that. They were not the P&M. They were members of the P&M who did wrong. And we accept that. Yes, Marlene McDonald is before the court and she will have her day in court. And if it is that she's found guilty of any malfeasance, whatever is the penalty the law prescribes for that malfeasance, let her pay it. You see, when it is that people in the PNM accuse her wrong, we have no problem with that. It is what it is. If you do wrong, pay the price. Hence the reason when Keith Rowley came in as Prime Minister, one of the first things he did was to tell his ministers, anytime when you get caught in any wrong, stand up on your own. Do not look to me for no help. Right? You will get no quarter from me. Right? No mercy. You know what the PNM standards are. You come in here to do a job for the people. You are not to thief the people money or engage in any racket to take the people money. And if it is that you decide to do that, well, stand your bunks. Kamla, she ain't telling our people that. If all you thief, make sure you find a way to cover it up. And if it is brought to my attention, I will send it back to you for you to investigate yourself. Right? But make sure you could investigate yourself. Now, if it is that you get caught and you end up getting charged, of course, we will stand in your corner and lie and say that it's a PNM propaganda thing and it's PNM smear campaign and it's the PNM do that. That is the PNM DNA to set up UNC people. We will back you. Don't worry. We got your back. And you know, that it will be many, many years before you even make a jail. You probably mightn't even see jail. The only time you might see a cell is when they pick you up for questioning. But other than that, the likelihood of you making a jail is slim to none. Because the justice system in this country is such that by the time the case call, you're already Clark and Batu waiting for you. So don't worry yourself. Go ahead and thief. We don't allow that in the PNM. All right? So there was something else I wanted to touch on. Jayanti Lakshmiya, Senator Jayanti Lakshmiya. Let me deal with her. Before I get to... Now, again, I have to ask your permission to play... And I just need to play a clip that from the Doglaya, but it's not as long as you want to play the other day, right? But I just need to play it to make a point, okay? And then we will get to the local government issue. But let me touch on Senator Jayanti Lakshmiya. So before I get to it, every time Jayanti Lakshmiya needs to or has a contribution to make in the Senate, there's always a big performance, a big theatrical performance, you know? So she like to splash yet. Get on like a whole gutter rat, a wajang. And I see it for what it is. From the very first contribution that she made, I said to myself, clearly she's performing for Kamala. She is auditioning for her leader because she wants to say to the leader, look, leader, look me, look, Jayanti. I could be a whole gutter rat just like Anil Roberts and David Naked. I could be uncouth and classless and low just like them. I too am below the pavement material. Look at me. Because she realizes of all the six senators that they have, the two senatorial positions that are not as solid as the others are hers and Damon Lyda. And she knows how very fickle Kamala Prasad Bisesa is. So she could just wake up one morning and say, I want to put somebody else there. Because, you know, for them, the Senate is a position. Serving in the Senate is really a kobo sweat. So when Kamala feels that she need to curry favor somebody, or whoever it is, she'll get them a position. Or if it is one of her financiers, pick up the phone and call and say, yeah, what Nagi, so and so apply. All right, Jayanti, take a rest. Damian, take a rest. I put in somebody else there. So it's like she's trying to solidify her position in the Senate like the others. So she feels every time she makes a contribution, it always has to be something to catch the eye of the media. So last week, Senator Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal decided to check her and put her in her place. Well, apparently it touched a nerve, and Senator Jayanti Lakshmiya has been venting on social media, the only place she could vent. Right? She vexed. Too bad. But she put out a post. Let me see if I find it here. Right, let me get it here. Don't tell me she remove it. Because I'm on her page and she put it on. Let me see if I see it here. Right. Just now. Come on one sec. Stay tuned for the right. All right. Yes. Let me read this article for you. And I thought it necessary to read this. You know, especially for the PNM supporters who don't like to listen. For the PNM supporters who feel that they need to teach Rowley and the PNM a lesson. For the PNM supporters who already have it in their mind that the party don't win already, and therefore they don't need to go and vote. I'm telling you something. You see that? Not this wrong. This election, forget that. If you never voted in a local election before, let this be your first. All right? Let me read this article from this post from Jayanti Lakshmiya, where she, in my mind, expresses exactly what her view is, and perhaps by extension, how the UNC considers or sees PNM people. Right? Listen to this. In the legal profession, this is Jayanti Lakshmiya, there are donkeys who have never raced, and there are thoroughbreds who race every day. It is difficult to hear a donkey talk about a race it never ran. Some donkeys are afforded column space and have the temerity to criticize the Privy Council when they never even appear in a magistrate's court. Worse yet is to hear a donkey who tries to race stand up and criticize the race simply because he cannot win. When such a donkey is decimated and embarrassed, it will ask its donkey friends to bray as loudly as possible to distract from the lost race. When such a this braying takes the form of personal attacks. The spectators decide that they can be patronizing because those with no professional accomplishments to speak of have no character or reputation to defend. As someone who has studied hard, sacrificed, and excelled, jealousy has never been far behind me. If one were to take the legal acumen and accomplishments of Al-Rawi and his sidekick Sagram Singh Suklal and put them together, they still won't qualify to stand in my shadow, far less my shoes. Jealousy obviously consumes them both. Perhaps instead of using harsh words to express my displeasure about the personal attack on my character, I should have taken the cake and pelted it in the tea room. Then I would be qualified to be the leader of all the donkeys worshipping at the altar of a man who has taught them to be nothing but vile and nasty when their incompetence is exposed. But even the second-rate professionals always seem to be given first-class coverage in TNT. Naipaul would not be surprised. The PNM has always been a party of mediocre hustlers, full of talk and absolutely no heart and no substance. Let the donkeys bray and let them eat cake. That's Jayanti Lakshmiya. So you see this line, then I would be qualified to be leader of all the donkeys worshipping at the altar of a man who has taught them to be nothing but vile and nasty when their incompetence is exposed. Right? Who's the donkey she referring to there? So she talked about pelting the cake in the tea room. So obviously she's referencing that tea room issue that happened with Dr. Rowley and Chandra Sharma. But is referring to the leader of all the donkeys. So she's calling PNM people, PNM supporters, PNM members, donkeys. The same donkeys is who you all needed in 2010 to win that general election. Without the same donkeys, the PNM donkeys that you're referring to, Jayanti, you all couldn't win Arima. You wouldn't have won W Mirror. You would not have won Lupino Bonaire West. You would not have won Sangre Grande. You would not have won Tunapuna. You would not have won San Fernando West. All of those seats you would not have gotten without the same PNM donkeys. And we know we're not stupid, right? We are not of the waterfront ilk. So we can read between the lines what it is that you're saying here, that the PNM has always been a party of mediocre hustlers. You know what's amazing is that all of these clowns, like Jayanti Lakshmiya, who like to talk that stupidness, all of them benefit from the free PNM education. All of them. And their parents too. But want to call the PNM a party of mediocre hustlers? Just like when this clown, Munilal, made the statement that if they come back into office in 2025, they're going to turn Balize House into a shelter for vagrants because Balize House has always been a place for vagrants. They're disrespectful. And what these idiots don't understand is that if you have hopes for representative politics, even if you don't go up for a seat, the fact of the matter is that if your party wins the next election, you are supposed to be, and more than likely Kamala will make you a minister, is that you are supposed to be a minister for all the citizens of this country. All. So it makes it even worse if you intend to go up for a seat. And this is how you wish to describe PNM supporters. Understand that there is no constituency in this country that only has UNC supporters. In every constituency, you have PNM supporters and UNC supporters and supporters of other parties. So that when it is that if you were to become an elected representative, you represent the entire constituency, PNM, UNC, PDP, PEP, whoever. And all of these people, when they have issues, have to come to you as their member of parliament. And when you are on record as making these nasty comments that about PNM supporters and calling us basically what leader, you would qualify to be leader of all the donkeys, worshipping at the altar of a man who has taught them to be nothing but vile and nasty. What rock you living under, Jayanti Lakshmiya? What rock? You want to talk about Dr. Rowley teaching us to be vile and nasty? You don't listen to Douglaya politics. You don't listen to your fellow Senate colleagues, Anil Roberts, David Nackett, Damian Lyda, and of recent vintage, Jolene John, who all of a sudden, I don't know if like the blonde wig get into her, so she decided to, step out of her britches, so to speak. But this disrespectful twat that feels that she needs to impress Kamala, there are many ways that you could do that. But you see, when you want to come out and step out yourself to attack PNM people and to call us donkeys, right? They probably have a few who dotish enough to give out their vote come 2025 and maybe even in this local government election. Yeah? But the rest of us, we don't answer to that label, madam. Check your party to see who the real donkeys are, right? See who the real donkeys are in that party. Fast and out of place. So we're talking about what, second-rate professionals. You could stand in and Faris shoes, talking about even if you put together Faris and Renuka's legal acumen, that they can't stand in your shadow far less your shoes. When it comes to corruption, they can't stand in your shadow or your shoes. When it comes to being an upholder and an enabler of wrongdoing, definitely they can't stand in your shadow or your shoes. Because you have plenty to say about everything else that's going on in the country, but you wouldn't talk about the fact this article with respect to the Piako airport that your political leader described as PNM smear campaign. You wouldn't touch that. You wouldn't touch on that though. Right? And the only thing your leader could say about that is that the report exonerated DPL Jerlyn John. They didn't exonerate anybody else. Where were you then? This disrespectful, and you still have anyway. But as I said, I see Jayanti for what she is, right? She playing for the crowd, for the audience, in particular, one person in the audience in particular, her political leader, right? She looking for position, just like the rest of them. Saddam, who always all up under Kamala, yeah? All up under her. Anywhere she go, he there. Right? Now he's leader, and leader this and leader that. All it disrespectful. I just hope, PNM people, you all take these things on board when it is that you're going to the polls. Eh? These are the things, the nastiness that should be motivating you all. Even if, I'll be honest, I don't know. I have not seen the list of names of the successful nominees yet, with respect to those who have been screened so far. But I will admit, the PNM have some people who have been serving as councillors that really and truly have no business being councillors. Yeah? They need to clean their act up. My own councillor, really. And it's not about just voting for people because you support a party. It is because at the end of the day, after the election is done and the votes have been cast and so on, people expect to see a certain level of performance. That's what we expect to see. So you all need to get your act together. But it is very difficult, even when when I read things like this and the level of disrespect that is meted out by she's a senator. You participate in the making of laws in this country. Right? Regardless of the party that you belong to, unfortunately, your leader selected you to be a part of the process in making laws in this country. You're making laws for all citizens, but have the audacity and the temerity to refer to people as donkeys worshipping at the altar of a man who has taught them to be nothing but vile and nasty when their incompetence is exposed. What is the competence level of your leader? What is her track record? What did she accomplish? Tell us. What is Kamala's track record? The fact that she's senior counsel, right? What is her legal acumen compared to that of Faris Al-Rawi and Renuka Sagram Singh Sukla? What is it? We know that there is a letter on file from her attorney, her very own attorney, Israel Khan, who basically called her a fraud of the highest order when it comes to senior counsel. That he would have felt the need to outline all of the criteria that one must satisfy to earn senior counsel. And he made the point, she did not satisfy any. In fact, he threw out the challenge to her. Name one case, making it easy for her. One case that you fight that could warrant you getting senior counsel. One case. And she couldn't do that. And the fact that none earlier could have stand up and defend her and say, well, look, we will answer the call. We will take up the challenge to name one case. Not one of them could have do that. Because you know what? It ain't had none. Her record in the courthouse is as boring as watching water boil. And perhaps people would be more excited to watch water boil than to read Kamala Prasad's track record in the courthouse, which is almost non-existent. So as I said before, the clothes that she wore when she was called to the bar, she could probably still wear that. Untouched. Pristine. You might think it brand new because it hung up there for all these years. But you want to come and talk about, look, anyway, we deal with Giant here another time. I want to play, and I'm asking your permission, folks. I need to play this, right? Let me get this here. Let me get this. Right. It's just a little clip. It's not as long as the one that I played the last time. And I see where I see where UNC Cabal, Pong and Jayanti and Munilal. Maybe that's what she vexed about. And don't take out your rage on Renuka. and on the PNM, focus it on UNC cabal and all who given him information for that, so that he could come and create these posts and share with people what it is going on. But yet still, with all of that, and I'm sure you know who is behind cabal, but you wouldn't sue cabal for the things that are being said about you and Monilal. The other day, when it is that Camille Robinson Regis outed her with respect to the HDC house that she got from Monilal when he was the Minister of Housing between 2010 to 2015. The same HDC house that she sold within 2 years or so of getting the house for almost double the price that she paid for it, right? She was exposed. Nobody came to her defense, right? They keep that quiet and they decide, yeah, we will just allow that to suffer the fate of the 9 days. And let's see what other things we could bring up as a distraction so they wouldn't talk about that. But Dr. Rowley said, the media in this country have serious questions to answer because Jayanti on her Facebook page had put out, she has all of her papers and documents to show, and she's inviting members of the media who are asking questions to come and have a chat with her. Did any of them take up the offer? How did she qualify for an HDC house? On what basis did she qualify for the HDC house? Now we know, and you see, this is why, and we understand now, why the People's Partnership had increased the ceiling, the income ceiling to qualify for an HDC house to $45,000 a month. That's why they did that. So that people like Jayanti could apply and qualify. But in order for Jayanti to qualify, you would of course had to increase the ceiling, which means that Jayanti probably didn't apply before because she would not have qualified based on the previous ceiling. So you have people, and these same UNC people want to talk about, oh, how much people waiting 20 and 30 years to get an HDC house. How long Jayanti's name was on the list? When did Jayanti apply to be an HDC homeowner? She's under 40, right? So you have people waiting for longer than she has been alive to get an HDC house. Couldn't get it. But she was able to get one between 2010 to 2015. And that is just one example of several examples where Rudal Monilal, as Minister of Housing, would have been giving houses to people who would not otherwise have qualified. Case in point, the son of a former mayor of Chaguanas also got an HDC house. That mayor drives a Mercedes-Benz. But in 2015, when he was challenging Kamla Prasad-Bissessa for the leadership of the party at one of his public meetings, he made the claim, people in the UNC saying that I ain't do nothing and I never gave them nothing when I was minister. But I gave a house to the son of the mayor of Chaguanas, and at the key distribution ceremony, I had to tell the boy, don't come up on stage to collect your key because you will embarrass me and people will ask questions. So you sit down on the side, wait, and then we will give you your key afterwards. So they were giving out houses to their friends, family, and financiers at the expense of persons who were waiting for years to get a house. 100 houses per week. Remember that campaign? 100 houses per week. The houses that the PNM built. They were giving it out, 100 per week. And giving it to friends, family, and financiers, which is why they converted Victoria Keys from a normal HDC development into what it is today, with swimming pool and gym and covered parking and security key and all kind of thing, all kind of bacchanal they put inside. Why? Because the same average citizen who today they are the greatest defenders of, 2010 to 2015, they didn't know about them. Victoria Keys was too good for them. Nah, you can't live there. You must not be able to come out on your porch and watch and have a sea view and look at the cruise ships coming in and look at the water taxis coming in or look at the ferries. No, you mustn't have that. You mustn't have the facility to be able to just walk out your house, go across the road, take the walkover and go to West Mall. You mustn't have that facility. No, that is beneath you. You ain't good enough for that. We have people who fit that bill and that criteria. And had it not been for divine intervention that they lost the election in 2015, Victoria Keys today would have been rammed out with their friends, family, and financiers. At whose expense? The same people who not good enough, who they felt were not good enough to live there. Let me play this clown. Please, I beg your indulgence. I don't really like to play him. In fact, I saw somebody sent me a message on Messenger telling me when they went back to listen, they really couldn't listen to him. It's difficult at times, I know, but sometimes we need to play just to get the job done and to plant it in people's heads. Why it is these idiots must never, ever come back into governance in this country. Let me find this. Where is it? Mhm. Right. Not that one. The title of the video is Iowa It Good For You. Right? Iowa It Good For You. Listen to this. And I play it because I want you all to have an appreciation for if these people come back in 2025. Right. Just now. Let me make sure we set this up here. Good. As I said, I really didn't want to play it, but listen to this.
PNM right through. Iowa who uses media, look at that, to bring up PNM. Iowa who sing for the PNM. Iowa who allow people with the most vile nonsense to spew on the radio. Dishonest PNMists. Iowa, black man PNM. Iowa put in a bid for vessels that called me, but when he was under Manning, went and buy water taxi for 54 million, spent over 30 million trying to fix them. The Sioux and them never sail a foot. But Iowa, a businessman, a black man who moved from soca to entrepreneurship, to media, to business, to entertainment. That is impressive. Never mind he's a PNM. But I am proud of that, and he is a black man. So the black man prime minister who say he's proud to be black, wouldn't you all think that if this black man bid for some vessels that the PNM black man call member, purchase junk as usual, just like the Galleon's Passage, he was supposed to buy a fast ferry. Rowley said, nah, man. He was supposed to lease a fast ferry. He buy a slow boat to China that nobody want to go on. Well, don't you think that if this black man bid for some assets that kind of there, but he feel with his brain he could make use of them and make money, that's good. That's what entrepreneurship is. That's what creative thought is. That's what genius is. That's what great businessmen do. So this black man, who even though he's a PNM, are still proud because he's diversifying his portfolio, he moving into business. You want your children to do like that, to move out and so on. This black PNM, Iowa threatens to sue NIDCO over purchase of 3 water taxis. And because the PNM say he was the only one to bid. They advertised the bid internationally all over the bid. He put in the bid. The bid was official. The bid was clear. The bid, they were advertisements. They had a process that it means that he win the bid. You know, they don't want to give he the votes. They want to reopen and beg and give and try to get somebody else so that the black man can't get it. But this is the same government that when they was bidding for some CCTV contract and bids closed with Noel Garcia, Rowley Boy and thing, they say it had a glitch in TSTT. And the CEO and Kamal Georges wasn't there yet. Them was glitching quietly. Them wasn't glitching publicly. But they had a glitch. And then they let in a third company. And it so happened that the third company win the bid for hundreds of millions of dollars over the other two who had bid early. They were the central block. They placed Skimmy Dimmy with the bidding process. With Bridgman's. Remember Bridgman's way back? When Rowley said it was crooked money, but Rowley's the man approved the Charter Party agreement that brought Ocean Stem and Kobo Star here. The Ocean Stem never reached. Kobo Star contract reached about 210 million. Rowley said it was crooked money, but it's Rowley who approved the money that could come out of the Treasury by prime ministerial approval and went back to the cabinet for covering approval over a company like Bridgman's that did not qualify to bid. Iowa George, a businessman. Iowa George followed the process. Iowa George bid. Iowa George win. They may want to give the black man thing. Great is the PNM. All you don't like Indian? Eh? It's disgusting. They play the race card to climb the backs of black people into power, to then give recusals to people who don't look like Iowa. Iowa is not to win no tender, and he win it fair and square. No shenanigans, no games, no bid rigging, no nothing. The man bid and win, and his own PNM. But Iowa, it good. I say, brother, it good for you. Because I try to tell you that is what PNM is. They ride poor people. They tell you about race. They play race card.
So let's hear him, right? Saying, Iowa good for you because you're supporting the PNM. You're allowing your radio station and the presenters and the radio talk show hosts on the PNM and who supporting the PNM to push PNM on your radio station. Yes, you're PNM and you're a black man and the PNM is a black party and Rowley is a black man and the proudest black man it have, and therefore on that basis you should get the votes. Now based on what I read, all right, NIDCO put out the bid, the tender last year to sell the vessels. In fact, this is not the first time that NIDCO has attempted to sell those vessels. Between 2010 to 2015, the PP, the party of which this bald-headed afterbirth was part of, right? They attempted to, on 2 occasions, they opened bids, tenders to have the boats purchased, and then decided to stop. Why? I don't know. He wouldn't talk about that. He wouldn't tell you that, right? So NIDCO last year, again, put the vessels up for sale, invited bids, Iowa bid, and his was the only bid that they got. Okay, now, based on my understanding of how these things work, normally when you invite bids for the disposal of property, whether it's private or otherwise, you would have what is called a reserve price. Okay, so it's a minimum price that you're looking for. But of course, you're not going to tell the people this is what the minimum you're looking for to keep it fair, right? So if it is you receive bids and none of the bids meet that minimum price that you're looking for, you're not under any obligation to accept any. In fact, when they put out these tenders or these requests for proposals, they would state that the vendor is not under any obligation to accept the highest bid or any other offer for that matter. My understanding here is the issue is that NIDCO did not communicate with Mr. George what the final decision was, because the expectation was that, okay, this is the deadline date for the receipt of bids. We got bids. So you expect, well, after that process, they would open up the bids, evaluate them, make a decision, and you would then inform the persons who was successful. If you have any successful bid as well, okay, we've decided to accept your bid and we are now prepared to move to the next stage. But if it is that none of the bids are satisfactory, you reserve that right to say, well, all right, we're going to scrap this one and we will do it over. Okay? Now, but it seems that they did not communicate with Iowa to let him know what was the outcome. So pre-action protocol letter was sent. We later found out that, okay, his was the only bid. And perhaps, I don't know if it is that the bid wasn't acceptable or if it is because at the end of the day, in the interest of transparency, now they want to make out a case here to say, well, it's because he's a black man and that they want to open up the bid so that the 1%, if the 1% was interested, they would have bid. If the 1%, as they're trying to make it out, was interested in the boats, they would have bid since between 2010 and 2015, or in this instance, they would have bid, in which case Iowa's bid would not have been the only one. But the point I want to make here, you heard this club, is because that Iowa should get the vote because he's a black man, because he's supporting the PNM. His radio station, a lot of people who contribute on that radio station is PNM, and the PNM is supposed to be a black party. So on that basis, he should get the vote. Remind me, Trinidad and Tobago, was Anil Roberts not one of those, the loudest voices that was calling for the proclamation of the procurement legislation not too long ago? In fact, for over a year, the UNC was beating that issue about procurement legislation for more than a year on the platform, right? That the PNM don't want to proclaim the legislation because they want to be able to give contracts to their friend, family, and financiers. The PNM don't want to proclaim the Procurement Act because they want to continue to rent Paris property and they want to take loans from Stuart Young Brother Company, a company, not that Stuart Young Brother owns the company, he's merely a senior executive there. That the PNM watered down the procurement legislation so that they could make it easy for their friends and family to still get contracts. You all remember all of that? Theirs was the loudest voices calling for the proclamation of the procurement legislation, implying the corruption on the part of the government. It proclaimed in full. Now, this idiot is telling you, saying in public, and procurement legislation be damned. You know what? So hear what government. Forget about procurement legislation. Forget what the act says. Because when I saw this, I decided to go and read the act myself to see if there was any clause in the act that says the government, with respect to the disposal of public property, can use as a criteria ethnic background and political patronage. So if it is that your race is that of the predominant race that is perceived to support your party, and you are a supporter of the party, yes, they could give you state assets. Nowhere in the act does it say that. But that is what he is advocating. So in other words, he's telling IWA, good for you. And you want to support PNM, and you want to play black man, well, hear what? If the UNC was in power, and you were an East Indian, and you were supporting the UNC and using your radio station to promote UNC, you would have get through. To hell with procurement legislation. We don't care what the Procurement Act say. You would have get through. That's what he's saying there. So understand that if these people come back into office in 2025, that is what you could expect. That once it is that you are a supporter of the party, and perhaps you have a certain ethnic background, to hell with, and they love to talk about transparency. Now, if it is, NIDCO had said, well, you know, let me get Iowa the votes because Iowa is a black man. Let me get Iowa the vote because Iowa radio station always talking up the PNM. They would have been the first ones to run to the courthouse. Yeah, the first ones to file freedom of information request to find out how many bids was received and what was the amount of Iowa bid and all of that. What was the procedure? Who was sitting on the tender evaluation committee and why it is that they didn't go back out to tender to try and see if they could have gotten a more competitive bid. All of that we were here. If it is, NIDCO had jumped out the cell to say give it to Iowa. On that basis of what he is advocating, because Iowa black, Rowley black, the PNM supposed to be a black man party, and Iowa supposed to be PNM. But these are the people who were the champions of the procurement legislation. They wanted proclaim. It proclaimed. But now we're telling you, forget it. Push that aside. In fact, last week, Monday, on the Monday Night Forum, the political leader, Posad Bisesa, lamenting the fact that now that the procurement legislation has been proclaimed, that small vendors and people who provide food and refreshments, you know, like bacon shack and doubles and what did she say about corn soup? So that when the corporations have the little meetings and so on, they would usually look to the little village caterer, you know, to provide little meals and refreshments and so on, so they could give them a little something. She complaining now that these people are required, based on the procurement legislation, they are now required to register with the Office of the Procurement Regulator as contractors to state enterprises so that they would be on the list. So when it is that they have to tender for these things, because the procurement legislation requires them to do that now. She vex and talking about, you can imagine that, man? Now the poor little bacon shack vendor and the poor little doubles vendor and the little lady in the village who providing the corn soup and the doubles and so on, she now has to go and register with the Office of the Procurement Regulator so she could provide a little something. So if she get 5 cents in profit, she had to pay 2 cents to Imbert because Imbert want to know how much money she making. That was in the legislation. This wasn't a cabinet edict. Keith Rowley and Coleman Burt didn't send out a memo to the corporations and say this is what has to be done. This was a consequence of the legislation that they were begging for all the time. More than a year now, it's proclaim it. The government want to proclaim the regulations, and they don't want to set up and they don't want to do this. It proclaimed. Now you're coming to complain. So you didn't read the legislation when it was being debated in Parliament. So what was the purpose of your objection? Because if you had read the legislation, you would have understood that that was one of the consequences that would come about as a result of the proclamation. And which is why the government did not want at the time to implement it so quickly so that all of these things could be put in place before it was rolled out. So we will give people time. Let them know this is what you would be required to do. Start the process so that when full proclamation takes place, you will already be inside. Not now that the proclamation has taken place And you had to be rushing and hustling to try and see if you could get inside, because an opportunity presented itself for you to be able to bid or for you to be able to offer your services, but you can't. You have a strict timeline in which to apply. But now, because you're not registered with the procurement regulator, you can't apply. So you lost out on an opportunity when the government was saying, here what? Let us put the infrastructure in place first. Put everything in place first, so that when the law is proclaimed and the provisions of the act become law, that the people are prepared and ready for when it comes in. No. We want to proclaim now, proclaim it now, proclaim it now. Well, they proclaim it. So you have all of these small vendors, now not even small vendors alone, big businesses too. All of them had to go online now to go through this tedious process to register with the Office of the Procurement Regulator, so that they can be registered as contractors and suppliers to the state. And now, because of the amount of people who all of them trying to apply at the same time on this same platform, encountering problems, which is preventing them from being able to access state resources with respect to contracts and so on, and they vex. Don't blame the government for that. Blame the UNC. Blame the UNC. They were the ones who were saying, proclaim it, proclaim it, proclaim it. They were the ones who were making the claim that is because the government corrupt is why they didn't want to proclaim it. Now while they're crying, crocodile tears. It's the same thing with the local government reform. And I want to read something else for you all, to show you how these people are a bunch of hypocrites. I'm going to pull this up here. AZP News, Prior Bihari. Let me get it. All right. Let's see here. People, AZP News. No, I don't want you prior. I just want your news outlet. Right. So that's now. Let me see if I get this here. That's now. Give me 1 sec, folks. Let me just get this here. I saw this right. Here we go. Neil Gosain, who is the treasurer of the UNC, former CEO under the PP of NP, published an article in AZP News. Let me see if I get it here. Entitled, just now. Where is it? I saw the thing this morning. Right, property tax like doubles with pepper and no channel. This is Neil Gosain. And when I saw the article and I read it, to me, it just sums up why we need reform, right? The Dr. Keith Rowley-led government is touting the idea that the country's infrastructure can only be maintained through the enforcement of new rated property tax. Formerly known as the Land and Building Tax Act, it was surrendered in 2010 after much lobbying and political pressure, resulting in a tax concession up until today. The then PP government was the one who gave the tax concession. Really? Anyway, this is the part that I want to read. They have stated that the estimated revenue to be collected from property tax is around $500 million, but all citizens are dreading the implementation of this property tax because now is not the time to implement more taxes on an already overburdened population. Left to the UNC, it would never be the right time. Never. I commented that just now. In reality, we pay taxes for everything that we purchase, including stamp duty when we purchase a home. A house purchased for $3.5 million will cost a homeowner a stamp duty of approximately $160,000. He wouldn't tell you that it was this PNM administration that increased the ceiling for first-time homeowners purchasing a house, land and building. Increased the ceiling with respect to stamp duty from $850,000 to $2 million. So under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, between 2010 to 2015, if you were a first-time homeowner and you wanted to, and you're purchasing your first property, if it is the property cost more than $850,000, you would have to pay stamp duty on every dollar over $850,000. It was the Keith Rowley administration under Keith Rowley and Carl Membert increased that ceiling limit from $850,000 to $2 million to encourage the purchase of homes by first-time homeowners. Neil Gosain ain't gonna talk about that. No. I continue. Where is the part? Let me see here. Instead of imposing the property tax at this time, where citizens can't even afford the skyrocketing prices of food, the government should carefully assess the areas where they are overspending. They can't afford food, but Prestige Holding is recording increased revenues, $1.1 billion in revenues in the last fiscal year. Prestige Holdings, KFC, Starbucks, what's the other one? Presto, this sandwich one well, you all should know the companies. TGI, Pizza Hut, and all of them. $1.1 billion in revenue, right? Increase in profits as well. But he's telling you, the average citizen can't even afford the skyrocketing price of food. Okay. The opposition has pointed out over and over again that the high prices we, the taxpayers, are paying for rental properties to friends, families, and financiers of the PNM government. One member of parliament has been named over and over again, and several go undetected. However, the truth of the matter is that the rental market is soft because of the downturn in the market and yada yada, right? How many of those same properties that you're talking about did the People's Partnership rent between 2010 to 2015? As I said before, the average tenure of a lease period for the government is 3 years. 3 years, which means that any property that the People's National Movement would have rented from 2009 under Patrick Manning, or 2010 for the latest under Patrick Manning, up to May 2010, all of those leases would have expired on or about 2013, right? Up to between 2012 and 2013. It means that every lease agreement that was entered into by the PNM under Patrick Manning would have expired under Kamla Prasad Visesa between 2012 and 2013. So from 2012 to 2015, they would have had to renew these leases. If you had a problem with the government renting any building from Faris and Faris' father-in-law, his mother-in-law, his wife, or anybody else, you all, when that lease expired, you could have said, that is the day. We're not interested. We're not leasing nothing from Zaman. We're not leasing nothing from Paris. We're going to look elsewhere. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. In fact, they renewed the leases, all of them. For all the buildings that they're complaining about, how much rent Paris family collecting, you all renewed those leases between 2012 to 2015 without complaint, without let or hindrance, including number 1 Alexandra Street, for which they renewed the lease for an additional 3 years, right? So that when the lease came up because this lease was negotiated under the PNM in December of 2009. So it would have come to an end on or about December 2012. So for the first couple months after that, they would have been engaging the company, paying the rent 1 month, and then went back into a lease for another 3 years, which took the period to 2016. Which is why when this government came in 2015, the lease expired in 2016. And a decision had to be taken then. What do? It was an easy decision to make. Number 1, Alexandra Street. Up to that point, over $45 million had already been paid in rent. Over $5 million had already been paid for security, $1 million a year to have a security guard sitting down by a desk, manning an empty building for 5 years. Over $120 million had been spent to outfit this building, right? Because they couldn't decide, and it is on record, and this is on record from the mouths of UNC officials from that government. Chandra Sharma, Rudal Munilal, Marlene Kudre, and there were 2 other ministers, Jack Warner, and I can't remember who the other one was, Suraj Rambachan. Yeah. They interviewed all of these guys, and all of them admitted that the cabinet at the time couldn't decide which ministry to put there. And every time they decided we put in this ministry here, they had to go now and spend money to outfit the building to suit that ministry. And then for some reason, they changed their mind and decide we're going to put another ministry there. So they kept haggling for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Couldn't decide which ministry should go there. Spent $120 million plus to outfit the building. $5 million on security, $43 million plus dollars, $45 million plus dollars on rent, and not one public servant stepped foot in that building for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. So add 120 plus 45, that's 165 million, plus 5 million for security. $170 million of taxpayers' money spent on a building that was never used for that period of time. So in 2016, when the lease came up for renewal, the government said, you know what, we will use it. And the Ministry of Public Utilities was housed there and has been housed there since then. So when it is that I hear political leaders talking nonsense about, oh, the building, we paying rent for the building and the building is not being used, people like Philip Alexander, the dishonesty, it have a big sign outside the building that says Ministry of Public Utilities. And it tells you all the different departments, the electrical inspectorate and all the different units that are housed in this building. Big sign right outside the building. But you will come and do a live and tell the population that millions being spent in rent and the building is not being used. And the building next door, number 3 Alexandra Street, which has been used and been housing the CPO's office for the last 2 or 3 years or so. But you will come and alive and tell people that the 2 buildings remain unoccupied and the government spending their taxpayers' dollars in rent. And this man wants to be the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Both buildings, big sign in front. He passing there all the time, but coming to lie. But that's not the point that I wanted to make. The point I was making with respect to that is that all this money was spent. The UNC would have renewed all of those leases, every last one. So every building that they're complaining about. So this Neil go sign here talking about the government renting property from family and friends and finances. Let me read this part too. All properties owned by the government that are not occupied should be evaluated and refurbished. Just walk down St. Vincent Street and you will see these massive government buildings in disrepair and vacant. The government just put out an RFP for the refurbishment of Trinidad House, which previously housed the Board of Inland Revenue. This is the same building he's talking about on St. Vincent Street. And you see, this is the point that I make, that you cannot trust these liars. It was on television. It was in the newspapers. In fact, the ministry would have put out stuff on their website all over the place, inviting proposals to refurbish, and they intended to convert Trinidad House, which previously housed the Board of Inland Revenue, to convert it into some offices for the TTPS. It is there. They have the artist rendering of what it is supposed to look like, what it is going to look like. But he coming to tell you that you have these buildings sitting there vacant, and all they need to do is to be refurbished and repurposed. And this is something that he published yesterday. So I don't know if it is Neil Gosain and the rest of these UNC clowns living in a lake, in a cave, under a rock, or if it is they figure all of Trinidad and Tobago is of the waterfront ilk, or that we have the IQ of the Monday Night Forum audience, that we don't know what it is going on in the country, right? So for him to single out this building on St. Vincent Street, which previously housed Board of Inland Revenue, why is Board of Inland Revenue no longer there? Because the Board of Inland Revenue has its own tower on Ajax Street, 23 stories. A building that for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days sat vacant, empty, under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, while she continued to rent other spaces, because BIR wasn't only in Trinidad House. There were a number of other little offices and buildings around Port of Spain that they were renting to house different departments, all of which are now housed in that building on Ajax Street, that building that Patrick Manning built as part of Government Campus. Today, thanks to Keith Rowley's decision and the cabinet of Keith Rowley to outfit Government Campus as a priority when they came into office in 2015, this government is saving the state and the citizens hundreds of millions of dollars in rent that was being paid previously to rent private buildings. Today, Customs is no longer renting from Issa Nicholas, that blue glass building at the bottom of Abercrombie Street and Independence Square that for years was housing Customs. Customs also has their own building on Ajax Street next to the Board of Inland Revenue. Another building constructed by Patrick Manning and the PM. to reduce the amount of rent being paid to the same 1% that Mr. Gosain and the UNC want to talk about. Today, this government under Keith Rowley saved hundreds of millions of dollars that the People's Partnership intended to spend to build a companion building for the Red House. That companion building was supposed to provide offices for all members of Parliament. You know, like what exists in the United States of America with Congress, every member of Congress have an office on Capitol Hill. Well, they decided to do that in Trinidad, to refurbish, to renovate the Red House, and then build a companion building. So the intention was to lick down that whole, all those buildings, the building that currently houses the Ministry of National Security, Temple Court, going all the way up to the corner by NLCB there, and behind the courthouse, the magistrate court, all those buildings, they were supposed to come down. And they were going to build a companion building there for over $400 million, $500 million. That was the intent. You all remember when Mr. Manning had proposed to tear down, to do the same thing, but he wanted to use the Red House, to turn Red House into the Prime Minister's office and to build a new Parliament building. And UNC was up in arms, I think Manning thinks I am prime. He wanted, no, we ain't having that. Okay, Manning scrapped that. What did the Keith Rowley administration do? They took one of the buildings in Government Campus, one of the towers, and moved the Office of Attorney General out of Cabildo Chambers, which is the building directly behind the Red House. They removed the Office of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs from there and put them just a little lower down the road in one of the towers in Government Campus, which is government property. And instead, they used Cabildo Chambers, which was already constructed, and converted that into the companion building to provide offices for the members of Parliament. So all they had to do, so you see the walkover from the Parliament building to that building at the back of the Red House, which is Cabildo Chambers. So they just, when they leave the offices and they have Parliament, they just walk across. Yes. So the Keith Rowley administration was able to save over $500 million by doing that simple thing. Thanks to Patrick Manning having constructed that building, Government Campus, it was available to move out the Attorney General's office down there, and they had this building that was right there that could be simply retrofitted to provide offices for the members of Parliament and save you, Joe and Jane taxpayer, $500 million. The UNC ain't gonna talk about that. You know what Munilal gonna say? Yeah, well, they changed the scope of works, so obviously they must save money. They didn't have the presence of mind to do something like that. Why? Because for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, they were prepared to leave the Government Campus empty. All those buildings finished and just needed to be outfitted to accommodate all those government offices that they accommodate today. Ministry of Legal Affairs, Office of the Attorney General, Ministry of Education, Public Administration, BIR, Ministry of Finance, Customs, all of these occupy these buildings today. And the hundreds of millions of dollars that was being paid in rent between 2010 to 2015 to the same 1%, the government ain't paying it no more. They ain't paying it no more. They wouldn't talk about that, right? But they want to talk about Rowley, want to rent building from the 1%, and who have dossier with how much buildings the 1% own. Plenty of them 1% and them pocket crying because the millions they were getting under Kamala, they ain't getting it again. Why? Because Rowley come in and decide that he is going to outfit Government Campus. Rowley decided that he is going to use the waterfront, the buildings, the towers next to Hyatt, to house ministries and save the taxpayers' money that was going into the pocket of the 1%. But the supporters of the UNC wouldn't talk about that. They wouldn't talk about that. Why would they? They're not about promoting the PNM. But let me find exactly what it is I wanted to read here, right? Right. Neil Gosain. Let me read exactly what Neil Gosain's position is for you all. Dr. Neil Gosain is an insurance executive. He is also the treasurer of the UNC and a former chairman of National Petroleum Marketing Company Limited of Trinidad and Tobago. And he was a doctorate and all kind of thing from another bogus university, but we ain't gonna talk about that. He says the government and the Ministry of Finance are trying to sell the population a bag of goodies that the property tax will improve our lives. This is poppycock. The government needs to look internally and fix their systems to manage and budget properly before they come with implementing another harsh austerity program on us. This is the part I wanted to read. Yes, we know we must pay property taxes, but now is not the time for it. This is Neil Gosine, the treasurer of the UNC, saying here in his article, yes, we know we must pay property taxes. So he's admitting it. We need to pay property tax, but his leader saying, ask the tax. No property tax, we ain't paying that. None of that. We will do away with that, put us in office, and we will get rid of the tax, repeal the Property Tax Act. Lie. Never happened. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Never did it. I'm going to read something for you just now from $11 million Minister of Finance with respect to that. He goes on to say, without local government reform, which has been in the making under this PNM government for the whole time they have been in government, all we see is more mismanagement. Without local government reform, which has been in the making under this PNM government for the whole time. So he admits local government reform has been in the making under the PNM, not them. Between 2010 to 2015, you know what we got with respect to local government reform? They decided to tinker with the way in which older men are allocated based on proportional representation. Why? So that they could get a foothold, get older men into corporations, PNM corporations, in which they could never get a seat. So they decided we need to find a way to infiltrate the PNM controlled corporations. So let us try and so they come now with proportional representation in local government and tinker with the thing so that once it is your party gets at least 25% of the vote in a particular corporation or district, you'll be able to get one alderman. And that is the only way they could get a foot, or the dirty foot, into PNM control corporations. That was the only interest they had in local government reform, and that was the only reform they gave us. The only reform, but Neil Gosine will talk about that. He goes on to say this only means putting more money in the hands of inefficiently run corporations and more bad spending on infrastructure without checks and balances. And while many people debate the timing of the resumption of property taxes due to the prevailing economic downturn, it is clear that this government will proceed as planned right after local government elections to implement property taxes, even if the people cannot afford to purchase food. They keep coming back with this nonsense about people not being able to purchase food. So he admits, this is Neil Gosine, the treasurer of the UNC, is telling you that in order to improve the delivery of service to the people under local government, reform is necessary. This is what Keith Rowley told already the other night. This is what the PNM has been saying for the past 8 years. And this is what the UNC has been resisting for the past 8 years. Selling you a certain nonsense, propaganda and old talk, rather than support the local government reform initiative. So internally, they know it needs to be done. They know local government reform is necessary in order for the people to get the quality of service, that what exists, what currently obtains, cannot continue. Because as insanity is defined as doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And that is what the UNC wants to give you. Do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. And the PNM is saying, no, the time has come to change the thing. But the government operates with a limited budget. And so therefore, if it is that the people are paying property tax, the property tax that you pay in your district goes to the corporation in which your district falls under. So if you pay your property tax, what obtained before under land and building taxes, where your money going into the consolidated fund, so you live in an arena, but your property tax money paying to fix thing in Diego Martin, San Fernando, Chaguanas, Point 14. Meanwhile, you're complaining that roads in your area need to be fixed. Roads that fall under local government not being patched. The garbage collection, the garbage man only coming once a week and the garbage piling up, and there's a set of roaches and big rats you're seeing all the time when you put out your garbage. Sometimes you put out your garbage just outside your house and it's there for days, smelling up the place. Flooding in the area because the drain in front of your house need cleaning. And the money that you're paying in land and building taxes going to help other areas. The government is saying under this new system, the money that you pay will remain in your corporation, your district, to fix your problems. So when it is things need to be done in your area and you go to the corporation, they can't tell you, well, here what now, we're waiting on releases from the ministry. Or what currently obtains, the corporation has to put in a request for monies to the line ministry, which is rural development and local government. And then the line ministry has to now make a request to the Ministry of Finance, and only to be told, well, here, what, yes, it's approved, but they can't get our money in this quarter. They will have to wait until we get income receipts next quarter. So you have to hold on for at least 3 months to get your problem fixed. Whereas the government is saying when the property taxes come in, it goes to your corporation. They have control over that money. So they can no longer tell you what we're waiting on releases, because property taxpayer, they're supposed to have that money to treat with these things, even if in the interim period, you use that money to fix the problem, and then you make a request on the ministry for reimbursement. But at least the corporations will have a little extra money to fix the problems, the local problems, in a more expeditious manner, rather than having to wait months for the ministries, for the Ministry of Finance to release money to the Ministry of Local Government, then for the Ministry of Local Government to release the money to the corporation. That's what they're saying. But we ain't seeing that. We're not seeing that. No, property tax bad is the worst thing. In other jurisdictions throughout the Caribbean, they have property tax. And while your government is saying, pay property tax, not on the value of your house here, not on the market value, on the annual rental value. So if it is that your house could be rented for $3,000 a month, that is $36,000 for the year, you minus 10% from that $36,000, you're left with $32,400, 3% of that. And that is your property tax for the year, $900 and something for the year, or about $84 or so per month. That is your property tax. The people who will be paying the higher tax rates is the people who are living in the Pink Palace, like the misleader, the opposition. The big house down in Gulf View, that how much years now finished bill and nobody wants to move in. Those properties, the people who could afford it, people who have this big swimming pool in their backyard and the jacuzzi and using Wasa water, but still paying small money every 3 months to Wasa. These are the people who would be required to pay a little more. And even for them, the rates that they would be paying would not be as onerous given the amount of money they have. Countries, Barbados, Guyana, Grenada, you are paying property tax on the market value of your house. So if your house is worth 1.5 million, 2 million, you're paying property tax based on that value. But you know, they wouldn't do the research and tell you that. But they could talk about, oh, Trinidad and Tobago is the 6th most murderous or the 6th most criminal country in the world. Wouldn't talk about the fact that in 2013, we ranked at number 3, the 3rd most criminal country in the world. In fact, our rating on the index in 2013 is what Venezuela is today. That's to tell you how bad it was. They wouldn't talk about that. And when you show that to their supporters, they vex. They want to talk about something else. And about Rowley is a pedophile, and Rowley raped a child and gave a 17-year-old pregnant. That's the kind of stupid talk. They could never talk or debate on the issue. When it is that you back them in a corner with facts, then we talk about something else, about PNM corrupt since 1956. All right, we talk about Privat. We talk about O'Halloran. All they want to talk about Gene Miles and Tosoro and what? That was 50 years ago. You have anything more recent? Marlene McDonald. You have anything more recent? Between 1970 along and now, please, help us out with that now. Between 91 to 95, the PNM was in power. You have anything there? No? All right. We're going again. Between 2001 and 2010, the PNM was in power. You have anything there? Or let's say Manning thief taxpayers' money to build a church. The Integrity Commission and others investigated that and said that was a damn lie. So we have that out of the way. Or let's say called the hard thief and the thief and the thief. Right? You'll write the back of that issue to office in 2010. Coming in office in 2010, up to now, the police never talked to Call the Heart. And all your Attorney General tell us, well, when we're ready for Call the Heart, we know where he is. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days later, you still wasn't ready for Call the Heart. This man that committed this most egregious crime against the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, where it is that Timothy Hamel-Smith and Vernon Dilema spent a set of money to go all the way to Malaysia to get document to show that the owner or one of the directors of Sunway was Call the Heart brother-in-law. All that effort you all went through to say Call the Heart is a thief, Call the Heart engaging in bid rigging. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Well, wasn't interested in Call the Heart after the election bell and election day passed and you all win. All of a sudden, you wasn't interested in Call the Heart no more. It's like Fali in Tobago. Zip line, zip line, zip line. And as soon as they win the election, they're not interested in zip line no more. Yeah? You're going inside there. You have control. All the evidence that you said that was there to prove corruption and racket. More than a year now, a year and a half. You're sitting as chief secretary. You can't even bring a half page, a one paragraph to show the people to say, look, Tracy thief, or Joel Jack thief, or Ansel Dennis thief. Nothing. And just like that, call the hat and zipline, end up in a file somewhere in some drawer. And we don't talk about that. But we're still talking about Tesoro and Gene Miles, O'Halloran and Privat. 50 years later, we're still talking about it. And want to talk about PNM corruption and the PNM corrupt. For how much years? Really? Really? People, let me tell you something. This election is no joke. I don't know about all you, but I cannot take 2 years of gluten from the UNC. Right? 2 years. They can't stop talking about the 14-1 in Tobago. We cut tail. Yes, the PNM got a good licking in Tobago. And we take it. We didn't make any excuses to say, well, you know, it was rigged or whatever it is and come up with some kind of dotish explanation. We accepted the fact that the PNM didn't do what they were supposed to do in Tobago. That the people were fed up, right? They said that the PNM weren't listening. In some cases, we lost seats for simple things because the candidate that the people wanted, the party didn't give that to them. And the party decided to give the people who they wanted as a candidate, and people decided, see me, are not voting. And as a result of that, we lost seats. It should never have been 14-1. Maybe there would have been a defeat, nevertheless, but it should never have been 14-1. One, because of the small margins in which we lost some of the seats, thanks to people who chose not to go and vote, whatever their motive was. And in other cases, it's because of the party didn't listen. They didn't listen to the people when the people say, this is who we want, not who all they want to give us. And we get licks. And we accept the licks. In 2010, when we get a tail cut and they were laughing at the PNM, the PNM went from a big maxi to a 12-seater. That was the laugh. Yeah, 12-seater. Watch them. Thing. All they get blows in all the old clothes. All kind of things. We take the licks. We made no excuses. Mr. Manning went up the same night and he accepted full responsibility for the loss. He didn't make any excuse to say that the election was rigged and the EBC and nothing like that. He admitted, right, I was wrong. This is what has happened. We move on. And this is what the PNM always does. We lose an election, we retreat, we regroup, we lick our wounds, and then we strategize how to fix the problem. And then we come back into office. Every single time that the PNM has been voted out of office, what happens afterwards? The party that replaces them comes in, they mess up, and then the people look to the PNM to come back and rescue them. 1986, it happened. 33-3, they almost wiped the PNM off the map. PNM get a good licking. They make no excuse. It was what it was. But what happened 5 years later? 5 years later, the PNM was back. Yeah? Retreat, regroup, introspection, do what it is you have to do. Where did we go wrong? How do we fix it? We do that. 95, well, 17-17-2. We didn't really get a tail cut, but, you know, the UNC Robinson history, right. We get voted out, no problem. Same thing we do. We take we licks. 6 years, we bide our time. The opposition did what they had to do. They kept the government on their toes. What did Pandey offer you between 95 and 2001? What did he give you? One of the biggest corruption scandals in this country's history, the Piarco Airport. And now, the present leader of the UNC wants to tell Rowley, Mr. Pandey is no longer a member of the current, he's not a member of the current UNC. He's retired, right? So do not put that on me. Don't put the airport on me. That is Pandey doing. Pandey did that on his own. I played no role in that. Never mind the fact that you played a significant role as Attorney General. And the media should be holding you to account for that. But anyway, right? That's what we get. And what happened? 2001, same thing. The people came back to the PNM again. We cut tail in 2010. All right, 12-seater. But that 12-seater was more effective than the current opposition. That 12-seater was able to expose the wrongdoing of that administration, that unholy alliance between 2010 to 2015. And what happened in 2015? The people came back to the PNM again. For 30 unbroken years, the people voted for the PNM. Why? Did Eric Williams go to every house and hold a gun to every man's head and say, hey, vote for the PNM or else? Did he have the Gestapo waiting outside every polling station so that when people come here, hold a gun to their head and walk with them to the thing and say, put your ex next to the balize or we will kill you? That didn't happen. The people voted for the PNM for 30 unbroken years because they had confidence in the PNM. They were satisfied with the governance that they were getting from the PNM for 30 unbroken years. That is why. When it is that I hear people from the UNC talking a pack of nonsense about 650, the PNM in power, they don't even know how long the PNM has been in power for 51 years. But they're talking 60-something years the PNM in power and what they do, and they do nothing. The majority of the infrastructure work in this country was done under the PNM. The majority of schools, hospitals, all of these different things. FCB, that is doing so well today, PNM. They like to talk about how the PNM shut down Petrotrin. Who created Petrotrin to the amalgamation of a number of other oil companies? Is the PNM did that? Unit Trust, who do that? PNM do all of these different things. But like they forget that. And I saw another one of the clowns, what it was challenging. Name one project that the PNM do in the last 8 years. They didn't do nothing. Really? Really? Kamala was Prime Minister for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days in her first term, and hopefully her only term. Keith Rowley was Prime Minister in his first term was for 4 years and 11 months. Let's all you forget. He called the election on the 10th of August, 2020. 5 years would have been September 7th, 2020. So he didn't go the full 5 years. He gave you 4 years and 11 months. So all who want to say the PNM frayed the election, the same thing all they were saying in 2020 that the PNM was going to get a tail cut. That's what they were saying in 2020. Because they were looking on social media and they're seeing everybody cussing the PNM, oh, Rowley this and Rowley that and Rowley and Rowley. 4 years and 11 months. In that 4 years and 11 months, he gave you 3 brand new ferries and a refurbished one. How many Kamala gave you? None. 0. In that 5 years, he increased your personal allowance. So in the last, not even 8 years yet, but in the last 7 years and some, Keith Rowley has increased your personal allowance from 60,000 under Kamala to 90,000. So he allowing you to save $7,500 more in your pocket through PAYE than you were saving under Kamala Prasad Bisesa. Her supporters ain't going to talk about that. But they want to talk about Kamala take off VAT off of 7,000 food items. Well, Keith Rowley gave you $7,500 more in your pocket. Which one worth more? Because the 7,000 food items that she claimed she took VAT off of, how much you're saving? How many people in this country, when they go to the grocery at the end of the month or whenever, buying 7,000 food items? All of the basic food items like rice and flour and sugar and all of these different things, curry and all of that. All of these things that she took VAT off of, Keith Rowley kept VAT off of it. But they continue to repeat this lie that the PNM put back VAT on the 7,000 food items that Kamala took VAT off of. Lie. That never happened. And they go from forum to forum, Monday night to Monday night, repeating that lie. Repeating that lie. And the evidence is there to show. Just go on Google. It is there. Take your device that Keith Rowley took VAT off of. No longer do you pay VAT on cell phones, tablets, laptops, all of these things. No VAT. But we wouldn't talk about that. Some of them had 2 and 3 phones in their hand. But wouldn't talk about Keith Rowley took VAT off of that. No, Kamala take VAT off of 7,000 food items. And what was the impact of that? There was a whole article in The Guardian that spoke about VAT off of food flops. Because the suppliers of the food, right, the importers of the food, jack up the prices. So there was no benefit to the citizens of this country. And when that was brought to the attention of the then Minister of Agriculture, Lands and whatever, Vasant Bharat, he said, well, if that is the case, I'd be very surprised. And I can't believe that they would be doing these things. How did we benefit from that? She built 1 hospital in 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. Keith Rowley built 3 in 4 years and 11 months. He gave you a REMA for less than what they were planning to build it for. He gave you Point 14 for less than what they had proposed to build it for. He gave you the Roxborough Hospital, started Granby, and Central Block in Port of Spain in 4 years and 11 months. But in 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, she built 1 hospital and converted an office complex that Patrick Manning built, again, to replicate what he built in Port of Spain, to save you, the taxpayers, millions of dollars in rent. She decided to convert that into a teaching hospital, an extension to the Port of Spain hospital. That is what she gave you as hospitals. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days with the highest energy revenues in this country's history. That's what she gave you. but want to talk about the PNM and do nothing. The PNM built the Curep interchange for 300 million less than they had proposed to build it for. Renovated President's House for $80 million less than what they had proposed. They shut down Napa, claiming that, oh my gosh, Napa was in a state and all the infrastructure, this and all kind of bacchanal. Shut down Napa for 2 years until it's going to cost $100 million at least. That is what Lincoln Douglas did, call a press conference and say that it's going to cost at least $100 million to repair all of the issues with Napa that they shut down for 2 years. This administration came in and under Coleman Butch, it was repaired for $20 million. 5 times less than what Lincoln Douglas tell you it would have cost. So if it is they had one election in 2015, that would have been at least $100 million gone, right? So at least based on the amount that was spent by this administration, we know at least $80 million would have thief. As I always say, if this government was corrupt as they want to make them out to be, if they wanted to thief, they could have used any one of those projects to thief. They could have simply go with the figures that the UNC said it was going to cost. So with the Curep interchange, all the government has to say, well, look, UNC say it will cost $503 million, but we have a contractor that could do it for 212 or 220. Well, we will do it for the 220 and we will thief the next $300 million. And we will split it up amongst ourselves. They could have do that. The same thing with Napa. They could have said, well, the UNC say it's going to cost $100 million. So if we spend $100 million, where they will come and say no. Remember, you all said it first, that it will cost 100. So they could have do that, fix it for the 20 million and thief 80 million and share it amongst themselves in the cabinet. The UNC said the project, Red House, companion building, 900 million. 950. The PNM did it for 440. They could have do it and thief the next 500 million, such that they only needed to serve one term. And with all those projects that the UNC had set aside with the hospitals and everything, the over $1.5 billion in savings that this government was able to achieve, they could have thieved that $1.5 billion simply by going with the UNC estimates. And every one of Keith Rowley's ministers from 2015 to 2020 could have left, say, we're done with politics. 5 years, $1.5 billion to split up amongst the 23 of us, and we good. Them good, the children good, the grandchildren good, and they leave politics. Hell, they could have left Trinidad with that kind of money. They didn't do that. But all they want is they like this government corrupt, and is the most corrupt government in the history of this country. Really? This government is investing in infrastructure, state-owned infrastructure, to take away the rental income from all of these people who have been earning income. That issue with the prisoner transport. For years, the UNC complaining, $80 million a year spending to transport prisoners. Who started that? Basdeo Pandey started that in 1996. He started it. And it transcended his administration, the Manning administration. It took the Keith Rowley administration to bring that to an end. When was the last time you see them big amalgamated truck in traffic being escorted by police because they're transporting prisoners to the courthouse? When last? That came to an end. So now they set up facilities in the prison. So they take the prisoner out of the cell, you carry them to the room, big screen, they see the judge seeing them, we talk, wherever it is, and then they carry them back. They don't need to leave the precincts of the prison. Millions of dollars being saved. Who did that? Keith Rowley and the PNM. Kamala didn't do that. She didn't know to do that between 2010 to 2015. So she continued to put money in Mr. Aboud's pocket. Millions of dollars in Mr. Aboud's pocket. How many millions did she put into Zaman's pocket that she costs in today? Number 1, Alexander Street was empty for 5 years, but you wanted to rent number 3 to house the same CPU that there today. And when somebody will spend years and tell you can't do that, how that will look? You run up to Barataria to say you're going and rent space in Barataria. Spend $53 million. Up to now, we can't find the building. Not a public servant ever stepped foot. In fact, the CPU office said we don't know nothing about that. The only office we ever had was on St. Vincent Street. So if Kamala said we had an office there, but she needs to tell her where that office is because we don't know. 53 million of the best taxpayers' dollars going down the drain. Some landlord laughing all the way to the bank, right? But they wanted to, Neil Gosain wanted to come and talk about mismanagement. And the government need to refurbish. All they didn't know about that. All they didn't know about that between 2010 to 2015. Right? But that's what we're supposed to put up with. They talk about COVID. And she said now the government killed 4,500 citizens. Total disregard and disrespect for all of the medical practitioners who work hard to save these people's lives. No regard for them. Right? You remember 2015? when it is that the country and the world was facing a potential pandemic at that time, which was Ebola. I remember that? When Ebola was killing people, thousands of people in Africa at that time. It had no vaccine yet. And the world was facing the potential pandemic. What did the UNC do? We know what this government's parallel healthcare system looked like. Remember what their parallel healthcare system was? 4 beds in Cora, 6 hazmat suits, and 15 to 17,000 body bags. That was their parallel healthcare system. So they say if the Ebola reach here, Cora Hospital would be the quarantine site, but you had 4 beds in Cora. When it is people saying, no, don't have no carnival in 2015 because of the risk of Ebola. Nah, don't worry, we good, man. We have 4 beds in Cora, 6 hazmat suits, and 15,000 body bags. We're ready for them. Ready for them. That is what they offered you. But want to accuse this government of all manner of wrongdoing. Understand the issues that you need to vote on whenever the election bell is rung. Just treat this local election as a general election. If you've never done that before, I know plenty of you listening never vote in a local election. Let this be the first. Please, unless all you want to hear for the next 2 years how much cocktail the PNM get and what we could look forward to in 2025 and how they will do the same thing. To have to hear Munilal gloating in the parliament, Jayanti Lakshmiya, who as I read for you all at the start, referring to us as donkeys, and Keith Rowley is the leader of donkeys. Right? So that is how they consider us. Donkeys. You're supporting the PNM, you're a donkey. And I'm sure she probably wanted to use stronger words, but she had to keep it friendly. I see Tat finally decided to pull up TV Jagrati and Radio Jagrati for this clown, Padarat, calling Dr. Rowley a lazy son of a... Well, they finally send them a letter. And they sent, and 103, whatever is the station, Radio Jagrati, finally decided to write to the UNC. All of a sudden, they realized, well, you know, that was improper language, right? You needed to get a letter from Tat to tell you that a man on national TV and radio calling the Prime Minister a lazy son of a B is improper. Yeah? But yet, still, notwithstanding that, he still continues, as recently as last week, to call the Prime Minister, to refer to the Prime Minister as that. But Jayanti Lakshmiya want to talk about Keith Rowley teaches his supporters to be vile and nasty. And Roberts referring to claiming that the former president, Paula May Weeks, was making political appointments, making appointments based on pum-pum politics. That she gave the position of PSC chairman to Blissy Prasad because apparently she in some sort of lesbian relationship with Blissy Prasad. That wasn't vile and nasty, Jayanti. When Anil Roberts calling the Minister of Public Utilities the Minister of Man, talking about how he liked to be on top of man and all of that, that wasn't vile and nasty. You're talking about personal attack. That wasn't personal, Jayanti. When he calling Stuart Young small pin and Paris tight pants, that is not vile and nasty, Jayanti. When you are calling Dr. Rowley rapist and pedophile and some of the worst things, when you are making your memes and you have a pile of dog excrement, dog feces, and you put the Prime Minister face on it, that's not vile and nasty, Jayanti. Huh? All of a sudden you are an expert on vile and nasty, the PNM, but you don't know what vile and nasty is. And when it is that, what is his name, Naked called the former president an insipid jackass, that wasn't vile and nasty, Jayanti. Wasn't vile and nasty. When it is your party, 95 to 2001 made the claim that Mr. Manning, or they give Mr. Manning a whole child, a whole outside child. Remember that? That wasn't vile and nasty. Where were you then? Where were you then? When Anil Roberts, on his nasty Doglaya politics, claiming that the Prime Minister having an affair with the Minister of Education, and he having an affair with the Minister of Social Development, and practically every female minister in his cabinet. That's not vile and nasty, Jayanti. You wouldn't talk about that. Yeah, but the PNM, yeah, it's a bunch of donkeys, and Rowley teach us how to be vile and nasty. And apparently, Renuka mash your big toe. You can't take that. So you're all over Facebook complaining and griping. Keep your private business private. Don't tell nobody. Because clearly somebody leaking it to Cabal, and that is why Cabal could come and be posting these things. But that had nothing to do with the PNM. Look, let's see what's the time there, folks. Uh-huh. 7701763. I'm going to turn on this thing here. Right. Yeah, I'm taking a call. 7701763. See how many calls we can take here. Turn this off. Morning to Jenny. Well, good afternoon. Mr. Chance, good afternoon to Marilyn Gordon. Good afternoon to you too. Let me see what we have here. 29 Super C says, well, I see that Street 919 going to the dogs on Friday from 4 to 7. Yes, that is so true. They bring, as if Saturday morning wasn't enough. Let's see here. So, right. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Hi, Dominic.
Hi.
I just want to say thank you so much for. Hello.
Yes, go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for your contribution and everything that you do. I'm calling from the UK. And we listen all the time. But
nice.
What they fail to realize is what we see here is just horrible what the UNC is doing.
Yes.
But your information really keeps us up to date. And thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for calling. Right, so we have listeners as far as UK. Right. Let's see here. Jenny. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Dominic.
Hey, Jen.
Hi, good afternoon, Miss Waltrudy and Lockton. Dominic.
Yes, ma'am.
The UNC is so disingenuous. And Kamala predecessor has been proven to be a liar on more than one occasions. Even Roche would have said that. This thing with the property tax.
Yes.
When Larry Hawaii was the Minister of Finance, the man who was involved with the Carlton Savannah situation, when Jack Warner would have tried to raise that as an issue in Parliament, and with his name, Wade Mark, question mark, would have said he get a letter from the court saying he can raise it, and we end up hearing is a letter from Hawaii. That's Hawaii who got 11 million, it is alleged, for becoming their Minister of Finance. He would have stood up and would have said, when they were in office, that for 2014 to 17, they proposed to phase the property tax.
Yes.
And that what they would do it in phases. They would start off to value properties that were business properties, commercial properties, and was coming right down to residential properties. So they had a formula how they were going to do this, and it was to be between the period 2014 to 17.
Yes.
When they came out of office in 2015, when 2017 reached and the Minister of Finance and they were trying to implement this that they would have put down there because it was supposed to be for 2014-17 to get it in order. Kamala established us and they stand up and say they're not supporting it. And she said it was unconstitutional. It was a wicked and cruel government, and heartless government trying to implement that. But it's the same thing that they implemented, and it's just that the UNDP and I was going to use based on what Larry Hawaii said. So that is to tell you how nasty it is. They're talking one thing when they're inside, and then when they're outside, they're saying something else. So it's just as what's his name, Rennie Bishop would have said, they don't operate on a scorched earth policy, mash up and burn down everything once they're not in office. It's not for the betterment of this country, and anything that they see will better this country, they'll fight it because they're not in office. So I want to tell everybody, treat these elections as a general election, because this is a four-plated. Come out and vote, because everything in the interest of this country come up as a business, and they do not want to take part. They don't want reform in the local government, but the reform is to help all the regional corporation to make sure they collect the taxes, and that tax is to use with garbage collection, use a building drain, cleaning the roads and all that. They don't want that. That is why all the councillors that are defected and come into PNM and say they never feel so much love before. But Jolene John and we have them water down African continue to say they were Rodney Charles and just nod their head like that one puppy, and knowing that they not consider nothing in that party because it is said that Dr. Rulam point at Joby John, it is said. And he said, if you tell she clean the toilet, now she go in and clean it. That is what they think about them when they sit down there as puppy show. And Barbara Book to be ashamed of herself with what she do when she was the JP, went to take the statement, notarized statement from Dr. Deva Moral. You should be ashamed of yourself. You need to be professional to do your job properly. So Dominic, people need to come out and vote and stop sitting down home and say this is not important. It is important for the development of this country. Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, Jen. Right, and let me just add one thing to what Jenny said there, right? Just now. All right, let me take Mr. Chance. Hello, Mr. Chance. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Well
Yes.
said, Jen. Well said. I want to join you. I want to start off exactly. Good afternoon, all your listeners on the line and all the callers and stuff. Very quickly, I want to join both Jenny and yourself. By the way, Dominic, very good presentation in respect of all the issues, particularly in respect of local government and local government reform. I want to start off just like Jenny did, how you ended. Voting in this local government election is like a general election. You know why? It is a mind game. As Dominic told you, because it's a mind game. If you don't mind your business now, for 2 years you have to say, we told you, we do this. So it's a mind game. And the mind is very important in anything that you're doing. You must have a solid, positive mind. And that's very important. But before I make my other 2 quick points, I want to say something to your listeners. And I want them to remember this all the time, Trinidad and Tobago is a real place. The Prime Minister has been saying that on many of his speeches, and sometimes without paying attention to it. And you know why he's saying it? Because there are people who deliberately going out there and telling you Trinidad and Tobago is not a real place. And they're telling you the Bartok in this country from the one part, internationally all over the place. But we have to tell them Trinidad and Tobago is a real place. And today, before I make my 2 points, and I want to tell you why. Trinidad and Tobago, a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, is now sitting as the president of the United Nations General Assembly.
Yes.
Now, which country in the world have a citizen who has been elected as the president? You know how many countries make up the United Nations General Assembly? 193 of them. And by the way, I want to tell you, 150 of the countries of the world pay property taxes, but that's for my next part.
Yes.
So it is 193 countries. And you know what the role of His Excellency Dennis Francis is? That citizen of Trinidad and Tobago? He is part of a team that sets the agenda for the discussions on world issues. Do you hear that? The world issues that will be discussed over the next year. We have China with 1 billion people, India with over 1 billion people, United States with 300 million and so on. Those discussions, His Excellency Dennis Francis will be a critical role in setting the agenda. So Trinidad and Tobago is a real place. And the second point I want to tell you is, we are leading 193 countries, and from the 4th to the 11th of April, you know what's going to happen in this country? We'll be hosting the Commonwealth Youth Games. We'll be hosting 72 countries in the Commonwealth. 1,000 athletes are going to be here with their media and everything. Trinidad and Tobago is not a real place. So what are 72 countries doing here? How they arrive here? They have to choose Trinidad and Tobago. It's a real place. So I thought I would just share that with you. But let me come quickly on to this question of the voting business. And Dominic made a point. The first point I want to tell you is that local government reform brings with it employment opportunities. Let me say it again. That local government reform, part of the problem we have is really employment. And that is going to bring employment opportunities. So let me give you an example. I heard the Minister of Finance say that in the Tirupuna-Piako Regional Corporation, if all the property taxes are collected, they will get an increase of $72 million. You know what that will do for job opportunities in the corporation in which I live? You know what he said that in San Gandhi it will be over $45 million. You know what that will do for job opportunities and better service in San Gandhi and all the corporations and councils beyond. That increase of money, one of the things will happen, you'll get better service and there'll be employment opportunities. So that's the thing I want to share with you. And finally, Dominic made a point of what is called proportional voting. My people, I want you to hear this here. Pay attention. If you're closing your friends, close it and listen to this. When you go to vote in this election, you are not only voting for your councillor, you're also voting for your alderman. Let me tell you again. You're also, so you put your vote, you're voting for the alderman. Because as Dominic said, they changed the system and now we have proportional voting for aldermen. And very simply, one of the things you have to do, they count all the votes in your corporation. So in the Tirupuna-Piako Corporation, they will count all votes that voted for the PNM. And they use a formula to decide on how many aldermen. In the Tirupuna-Piako Corporation, there are 4 aldermen. In San Gandhi, there are 4 aldermen. And in many of the corporations, there are 4. But how they arrive at those 4 is based upon one of the things that you have to pay attention to is the number of people who voted. So that is why that appeal to call you to go out and vote and treat it like a general election, because you're not only voting for your councillor, you're also voting for your alderman. And in each of these corporations, you have 4 aldermen. And you have to vote to put them there and keep the UNC totally outside. Let me close by telling you this. You know, in Arima, the UNC got 1 seat. That is the seat that Sheldon Garcia won. I know because of that, they got an alderman. You know that? They had an alderman there, and he didn't even attend council meetings. And that's why I'm telling you, you have to go and vote. Because you're voting for local government reform, you're voting for the councillor, and when you vote, you're voting to get aldermen. Because the alderman is being put in there by a proportional voting. What the next Sunday, Dominic and I will continue to talk to you and explain to you what that formula is. But the key thing in that formula is the number of people who voted all together for the PNM in the borough, in the city, and in the regional corporations. Thank you very much, Dominic, for the time.
Thank you, sir. You know, as Mr. Chance made mention about the issue of jobs, right? There was an issue I wanted to touch on quickly. And it's one of the points that the UNC have in the propaganda booklet that they plan to share with you all when they come around. And it's the issue of you remember when this administration came in, early on, there was a factory. Let me just take this here. Hold on, Just a paper factory in the Omera Industrial Estate, right? That had recently been taken over by another company, and the factory was in peril of shutting down. Over 400 persons were at risk of losing their jobs. This administration provided a loan guarantee. They didn't give them a loan. They provided a loan guarantee of $5 million to the Exim Bank so that the company could access this $5 million, restructure to be able to continue operations. As a result of that decision of this administration, the factory was able to restructure. Over 400 and some odd jobs were saved. Not only that, shortly after that happened, they were able to get a big contract from Cuba to be able to provide paper products. But today, Kamala Prasad-Biswaso wanted to tell you that that was a bad decision. She mentioned that last week. You all remember the toilet paper factory and the $5 million US loan that they gave to them? They have that in their booklet. But she wouldn't tell you that as a result of that, for 5 years, for 7 years, 8 years, we hear about how much jobs lost. But that decision by this administration saved over 400 jobs. Over 400 people who were potentially facing the breadline. 400 families that were at risk. This administration saved that company. Today, they're paying corporation tax. So that is money that the state is getting from that company in taxes to be able to provide services to you. The staff some of the staff members who earning over 7,500 a month paying tax. They're making contributions to NIS, health surcharge, and all of that. The value of the production of that company every year contributes to the country's GDP. All of these different things. How that one decision benefited the country. She wouldn't talk about that, but want to come and tell you the government give a loan of $5 million US to this company and so on. And they're going to put that in the propaganda booklet. And of course, the people who they're sending out to push that nonsense, clueless, have nothing good to say about it. And then they want to tell you they are patriots and they love this country. Miss me with that BS. Eric.
Good afternoon, sir. It's a good thing I have the afternoon on my phone.
It's a good thing.
Yes, I want to good afternoon to all the viewers and the listeners on this live this Sunday afternoon. Mr. Chan's very good contribution as always. The principle of politics, and Sister Jenny as well. Right now, I have just 2 pointers to make. Right, number one, the generous president, I think it's the president of the United Nations, right? I hear him talk that the UNC trying to make it look as if that was in their pipeline, right? The chance went across to France, but the plate of food man, right? Sell out Trinidad and Tobago to the French ambassador, right? To come and see how they had to get credit for that initiative that the Prime Minister would have put in place to recognize this twin island republic, right? Because at the end of the day, these people do not have country, and all they good at doing is to badmouth, bad talk, and write all over the world to say that this administration headed by Dr. Rowley is a wicked and a bad administration for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. You understand? So I have to say kudos to the Prime Minister for making Trinidad and Tobago number one and putting us on the world stage, because many countries around the world in the United Nations do not know that Trinidad and Tobago exists. And I'm saying Trinidad and Tobago, right? Trinidad and Tobago, because you know, Farley must have an issue when they say Trinidad and Tobago. You understand? So I must say kudos to Dr. Rowley and his leader phenomenal statistics again to put us on the world map. And before I go, at the end of the Madam Maharani from down in Queen of South, she talking her talk and saying how no, this is not really friendly. This is not. So let me reserve that comment. I'll reserve that comment.
Thank you.
I'll reserve that comment. But anyway, guys, it was good, Dominic. Good job as usual. Everything on point, on par. But it have two listeners and viewers on the YouTube trying to get in touch with you. That is Point Commander Sharon and David Clark. They're trying to get in touch with you. I don't know by how means and ways they can probably get in touch with you or wherever. Okay. Right? So they're just trying to get in touch with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no good.
All right. Right. Let's see here. Hello, good afternoon.
Dominic.
Yes, sir.
What's going on?
I am good. I see you out the country.
You're not foreign, you go miles all over foreign.
Yes.
Hey, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
You know, I was the only person who called Laisha program and told them how they make a big mistake by taking out that radio station. Only one person who thanked me for saying that, but I go call them in. Where are the residents? Where are the residents? But that's Eric when I told he would come after me. And the shame for them and Dominic Mary. Anyhow, let's move on. Dominic, you found that interview at your about?
No, not yet, sir. But I will.
Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mandela, he did not speak highly of Dr. Rowley. He he did not speak highly of Dr. Rowley. He said America was concerned and very concerned that Russia and Iran would infiltrate into Trinidad. I always tell them earlier, Russia, Iran, China, and India support Maduro. Dr. Rowley and the former Prime Minister supports Maduro because of that oil deal, Dominic. You hear Dr. Rowley say now, the dragon it has iron. Only wasn't listening to me all the time, Dominic. But don't have to worry, we'll continue. I will leave it there for now.
Thank you, sir. Oh Lord, leave it there. Why you so? Why you so? I will find the interview this week and I'll play it. All right. But anyway, why you so? You didn't look for your thing. Let's see who we have there. Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello.
Hey, Dominic, good day.
Hey, boss, how are you doing?
Yeah, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
You know what? I want to thank you for the information that you're bringing to the people throughout the world.
Yes.
Because the people throughout the world is listening carefully, right? And they see what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago, and they understand that Dr. Rowley is doing a good job, right?
Yes. They
are watching things on a different level. From the way we was under the UNC to how it is now under the PNM under Dr. Rowley leadership, he has bring our country back up to standard on the world map. Right? As Mr. Chan said, with the UN General Secretary receiving the doctors of letters of Howard.
Yes.
Right? Talking to all those big oil companies in Houston and different countries, right? He has handled himself good on that Wall Street for us.
Correct.
So he make us look good. But also, Dominic, he has said that there are some people in Trinidad and Tobago who is very unpatriotic to Trinidad and Tobago. And he knows why he's making that statement. Because Trinidad and Tobago has given so much to people. And today, he's coming with local government reform to try and get some money back in the corporations to help fix the road, pick up garbage, do the water, and fix parks, get the parks cut. And those unpatriotic people who get so much, those business people do not want to pay property tax. And that is who he was talking about. They are very unpatriotic to Trinidad and Tobago. Right? But people, all I have to say is, as Dr. Rowley said, your vote have consequences. And the man make up his mind if he has to win or lose, he will lose it on local government reform. You understand? And we have to make the decision what we want, if we want our country to progress or regress. Right, Dominic?
Yes.
You have a good day. Thank you for bringing the facts to us. And I only wish you was PNM social media representative because you're real good, brother. Right? Take care.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dominic. Dominic,
yes,
what did the Dr. Rowley have with this man calling every day? Why are you hiding? You know, I'm a big man. If he has nothing to offer, I don't know, man, the fake man. Dominic, what's wrong with he? This man lying, he never one day talk about you on social media. But what I want to tell you, Dominic, where you are, whether you're on 91.9 or whether you're somewhere giving us all the facts, which we want to hear and we know it is true. You're already debunking UNC lie. Keep up the good work, Dominic, and you must not answer people like me, but then he comes to disrupt your program.
Yes.
For people to get angry and to be talking about it, and it's not important. A big man like you, what is it that Dr. Raleigh has done you? That you something you asked and you didn't get it, move on. You move from Trinidad, you're jumping from here to America to where? Stay in America now, and I think that they'll find something where you can find somebody who could look after you. Because your sister looking after him for a soul. Have a nice morning. I'm getting real mad with this man, you know. You can speak then. All right, then.
Thank you.
Get thanks to all the nice program that you're having and giving us the facts. Because many things that we pay them is to come out and say it openly, like, you know, talking parables. Because most of the time I don't understand parables, but I know they will get in trouble.
Yes.
But I think that they were able to say it openly as they could. A lot of people would be voting for PNM more because many of the things, because of policies or whatever, ethics or whatever, they can't say that. But thanks for bringing, because I don't miss your program. I don't call all the time. I don't miss your program. I hope you would have the Tuesday morning.
Yes.
But you know, sometimes I get up late because it's city hours. As a pensioner, I don't get up early.
Right.
But I put you on your radio, I sleep with it, computer. And I put it on and I might go back and do something with it. But keep up the good work. Have a nice day, Dominic.
Thank you.
Keep it up. We are there with you. You are our PNM social media welfare workers. I don't know who they do it or who they put, but thank God and keep it up because the other persons would say they wouldn't do it, but you are continuing. Thank you. Continue, Dominic. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello. Brian.
Dominic Romain.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to you, sir.
Greetings.
Pleasant good afternoon to your listeners and callers. Dominic, Mr. Chance missed something very, very important. But I know he really didn't miss it. It's just a matter of time and so on.
Right.
Because I know he knows. Because every time I ask him a question, he already knows.
Yeah.
I know he knows. Dominic, you know what's happening in the next not too distant future, Dominic? The 50th anniversary of CARICOM.
Yes.
Where the Prime Minister of Dominica is the head, is the chairman at this time, has decided, you know what, we're going to celebrate that where it all began. You know where, Dominic? Down Shakarama, Dominic.
Yes.
In Trinidad and Tobago, Dominic. He could have said, nah, you see me having that there. I having it all by me. You understand? But he says, no. I want to hold this because of how important it is to we, the people of the Caribbean, to hold such an important anniversary and such an important meeting in Trinidad, in Shagarama. And I want to applaud the chairman of CARICOM for that. You understand?
Yes.
I want to really and truly applaud him and to applaud our Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs for what he is attempting to do to make it a memorable occasion. Because you see, Dominic, they keep saying this is not a real place. But we are recognized and appreciated. Mr. Chan said it. We now have the presidency. So many 193 countries of the United Nations General Assembly. You know what people be talking about?
Yes.
Half of those people don't even know where Trinidad and Tobago is. But we are on the map, and now they will Google to see who is this man? Where he from? Oh, okay. And they will look to learn more about Trinidad and Tobago. I hope they learn all of the good things, and not from those wretched thieves and kleptocrats that call themselves United National Congress. Dominic, people don't understand how important this election is. I'll tell you why. You remember, Dominic, a certain corporate chairman said he wrote to the Minister of Finance for money because he could use his backhoe and thing, boy.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
And the minister told him, look, you have money here. Why don't you? He said, no, that money here for that. That money is not for that. We want money to put gas and things in the backhoe so we can help to fix the rivers and so on down in Pinal, baby. Imagine that. You call him can't move, and workers sitting down idle. But all that will stop, and they don't want that to stop. You see, they want to blame the government. They want to blame central government. But you see, two things going to happen when this local government reform is really and truly underway. You know what's going to happen? People will no longer be complaining to central government. And that is the fear of Kamala Prasad, Vicenta, and her trolls and all of them. Because you see, when people have to take, when they come and get money from the constituents and the burgesses, and you want to keep it out, and you say, you don't have no money, they say, well, we just give money, I just give, what do you call it, my house. So how come you say you don't have no money? You can't go and say, no, well, ask central government. So it's going to be difficult for them to be keeping the own money they're collecting.
Yes.
And that is one of the problems. You understand? And Dominic, I have to ask you a question. Why is it all of a sudden 1 minute you're on a UNC platform and 1 week or a week and a half later you're coming across to the UNC? Is this why Kamala is saying that she will win San Fernando? Because they will cross the floor after let's say, if they go up under PNM banner, they will just simply cross that across and say, but okay, but now we are the majority. Is that what it is? So Trinidad and Tobago people of San Fernando, the city of San Fernando, be careful who you're voting for. Because we have worked hard in the vineyard to bring San Fernando to what it is. And we are still working. And we want to keep San Fernando. Also, San Grande people only be careful because remember in San Grande, they did not give one chairmanship to a PNM person up there. Only be careful who you're voting for. And you have to be mindful of these people because I am putting nothing past them, Dominic. Absolutely nothing. And I want to tell Jayanti or Jayalanti, I understand what you're doing. Because you see, Fat Boy down the field, he will come back and get a seat. But Fat Boy ain't getting nothing. So Fat Boy talking about show and sobers. Yes, show and sobers, you on the UNC platform. Jayanti, they go and get put up in front of you. Because you are being used. Because when you talk about donkey attorneys, you are one of them, Fat Boy. So you got to watch yourself. You understand? Because you are applauding that. You have to be careful, Fat Boy, because Jayanti coming to take your work. You understand? And all you're going to get is a cover sweat in the Senate if Kamala decides to put you there. If. And I very much doubt you will get it. Be careful what you wish for. I want to thank you very much, Dominic, for a very good contribution this afternoon.
Thank you.
And we must be mindful and we must go out and vote when that time comes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes. We can take a couple more, but let me just read this quickly, right? With respect to something Jenny had mentioned with Hawaii. This is an article from the Guardian in the 28th of August 2015, just about a week or so before the election. And he was talking about the property tax, and he says the property tax is not a priority. After he announced in the budget, they were bringing it back. Here what he says. He admitted he told Parliament previously he would be moving to have the tax reintroduced for industrial and then commercial customers, and ultimately agricultural and residential customers. Hawaii said subsequently there were stakeholder consultations with the business community on the matter. And he said the consultations indicated that such a move to implement the tax in the proposed manner could potentially impact on investments. And after we evaluated the feedback, we decided that we were not proceeding with it in the way I had originally indicated. Who really in the back pocket of the business class? Because you come to Parliament, announce in the budget, this is government decision, this is the cabinet's decision. I am announcing this in the budget as government policy. We're going to do this. And then you come afterwards to say you had consultation. Consultation supposed to take place before, not after. You had consultation and the business people tell you it ain't good. Which business people? And then all of a sudden you had a change of heart, but Rowley in the back pocket at the 1%. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, hello.
Yes, sir.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you? Yes, man. Enjoying your program, man. Good program.
Thank you.
I like people say, I just want to put because you should be the social media officer, but that's another story for another day.
Yes.
Dominic, you know, I don't worry about Mr. Lippe there. He's a special case by himself. Man, there's still some other things too. Apart from the appointment of this the gentleman who got a post in the United Nations, say congratulations to him. I think that is Mr. Damon Francis.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Right? I am waiting to see with bated breath. Well, as a prize now, they're trying to spin doctors now that is the UNC who had after a long time.
Yeah.
Is that what I believe?
Yes, Duppy sent out a press release.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Can I remember the thing when they said they had a plan? It was them who built the river hospital and the 1.14.
Yeah.
When that's not the case. Mr. Olivier should also realize too that Ms. Mia Motley from the Prime Minister of Barbados, she's talking to the Vice President of Venezuela.
Yes.
Is he aware of that? Does that mean that the UNC had to write letters to the United States calling for sanctions in Barbados? It's giving them something else, you know. And I'm also hoping to, and people need to see this local government election as a general election. Because let me tell you something, yeah? If I remember the program called the documentary called The Great Act, talking about Cambridge Analytica, and the difference between African and East Indians. East Indians vote because they believe it is a duty. Their parents tell them to vote. But with the Africans, they don't listen to their parents. That was in the documentary, Dominic.
Yes.
So Cambridge Analytica, so these people who did this thing, they studied us to the T. So then let African people come out and vote in their numbers. This thing is very serious. And I'm hoping to that the authorities, I was expecting, like the police or some other authorities, go at the doors of Barbara Book to investigate what's going on, because Mr. Devon Marriott went to take tests and went to be witnesses and knew and always sent a JP who's closely aligned with the UNC.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing? Something is wrong here as far as I'm concerned. The case has been compromised, you know, Dominic. With that suggestion,
yes.
And I hope Mr. Devon Marriott expose this thing because this thing is very serious. We can't let us go so not only we had to focus on Farley, because Farley are playing foolish position now. I see they having some kind of activities with the secretaries. I see they advertising posts on them for people to be able to forget. Now we have to focus on now with compromise of justice now, because they're sending UNC allowing people to harass people who give testimony in human trafficking. Dominic, you have a good day.
You too, sir. Right, so we have to leave it there for today, folks, because I see one of my devices is indicating that the battery is almost spent. So thank you for joining me this Sunday morning. It was always a pleasure. And so now that we are in election mode, I'm going to have to start doing my lives on Tuesdays as well. Yeah, because we need to bring the information out so that we can ensure everybody goes out and vote. We're not taking this election for granted. To my PNM people, please, if it is that you are supporting a particular candidate, somebody who was nominated and didn't get through, who was a previous councillor and you're good with them and they get through, please don't hate on the party for that. Don't hold back your vote because your person didn't get through. At the end of the day, it is for the benefit of not just the PNM, right? It's benefit of the country, and we know the best party to deliver is the PNM. If you don't want your money to get thief, you know which party to vote for, right? We don't want to have another Piaco airport scandal, another Beetham wastewater treatment plant scandal, billions of dollars going up in smoke, and the citizens have nothing to show for it, right? So we will let you know by tomorrow if it is that I will be on this Tuesday. Thursday is a holiday. So I have something to do on Thursday. So all right, we'll keep you updated. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday, folks. The rest of your weekend. Have a productive week, and we will chat again very soon. Thank you all so much, and I am out for today. Thanks.